Nathalie Doremieux joins me on the Neil Wilkins podcast today. Now, Nathalie is a specialist in building memberships, e-learning, AI, and building, I guess, strategies and plans to live your best life professionally, because there's a whole load of things here that you can do if you are looking to build your own business, create a side hustle, and maybe explore the opportunity to go it alone. And if that is the case, you're in the right place. So welcome to the show, Nathalie.
Thank you so much for having me, Neil.
This topic that we are going to talk about, and I guess it is a blend, isn't it? Because AI is now coming into the mix, but building membership, I mean, it applies to marketers, business owners. I mean, anybody in business needs to build a membership, really, don't they? Because it is the fundamental building block of a sustainable business.
Well, anybody certainly can. I will tell you that not everybody wants to. There are people that are not really attracted about creating a community. It feels very heavy to them to have to commit to such, possibly long-term, option, and they just want to deliver things and get paid in return, and they are okay to charge what they're worth so that they're making enough. There are plenty of people that are not looking to make a bigger impact, honestly. They're just looking to make a great living so that they can have the lifestyle. So I would say not everybody wants it, definitely, but everybody sure can. Even the mom at home that has never worked and now the kids, have left the empty nester, she can, because she's a mom, she's a spouse, she has, she has gone through life, so she learned things, maybe she learned how to get her child to go to bed, and that was a struggle. That's something that she could share and teach, right? So we all have like learnings that we could potentially monetize if we are if that's something that we really really want to do.
So I want to come on to all the various learning options that are available to people to start thinking about. But I just want to pick up on a word that you used there, which I thought was really quite an interesting one. This was the word community. Because when we talk about membership, I think for a lot of people in business, it's like, oh, well, that's my database. That's all the email addresses that I've got, maybe some names and maybe some other details. But actually, you've used the word there, community. Now, that's something a lot more, isn't it? Because that's a commitment to the relationship, not just the data.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, membership means so many things, right? You can have a membership at the gym, right? You pay, you can go. You stop paying, you can't go anymore, right? You go in and out. You are a member, right? And you're okay with that, right? You pay to access to something, some type of service of content. Now you can do this online. The problem is that these type of memberships don't work as well when they are not combined with some type of support and accountability, because you find that when people join memberships online, the way that they are going to get results, right? So you sign up to learn something, or to have support on something, and the way that they are going to stay months after months or year after year, if it's a yearly, is if they get the result that they came for. And content is not just enough anymore. They need the support, they need the accountability, and very often the community is what makes people stay in a way, because now they've built this connection, this relationship with other people that are learning the same thing, are facing the same problem, right? So if you're creating this safe space around a specific topic and people are enjoying this and are getting what they came for, why would they want to leave? And ultimately, that's what a successful membership is when you're able to attract the right people and they don't want to leave.
So there's so many questions in here that I have for you. With those answers, Nathalie, it's like, oh, and there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this. I mean, one thing that is, to me, really, really interesting is this kind of level of commitment. Let's say that somebody listening to this or watching this decides, okay, from the end of this, Nathalie's convinced me that I need to look into this. how much kind of commitment to that community as the, I guess, the owner of the course or the e-learning package or the material or the product or the service, as the owner of that, the person who's created it, how much kind of commitment of time, of energy, of facilitating topics and maybe workshops and things, how much of that is required from the owner, so to speak?
So it really varies. Like there is not like a single answer. It varies on a number of things, and I can give you some examples. At the core, what you want is your membership to kind of like solve a recurring problem with an ongoing solution, right? So you've identified people and say, I can help, they have this problem, I can help them. And then it's about finding, what do I need to give them in order for them to get the result and the support? Nothing more, nothing less. So how many calls do we need to hop on workshops? How often do I deliver content? It depends. What do they need? It's not about how much content, how many calls do I need to do? I have people that say, so how much content do I need to create? And I'm like, what they need, right? So that idea of commitment, I think this is a lot of what is preventing people from moving ahead with the membership model. I think this is the best business model, by the way. Recurring income, you get to make the impact and you get to continue to help people, right, that you've worked with, and so they don't have to go someplace else. So it's a model when you can fit it within your lifestyle, then you're golden, right? Because running a business is risky, but then you have that membership model that gives you that financial predictability, right? So going back to like how much and what is the commitment, you're going to have several levels of memberships, right? Like, so if I give you some examples, so I have this one client, John Burgos. He does one call per week, live recorded. You can come on Zoom, right? And then he takes the recording and places it in the membership. And that's it. He's had people that are there for like 2-3 years, and it's working really, really well. And that's all he needs to do, right? Now, if you were teaching someone about a certain topic and you just do that, that might be absolutely not enough. You know, they need more than that. He doesn't even have a community. He doesn't need to. People come for him. And it's kind of like a habit, you know, they put it into their routine. I come, I listen, or I watch the recording later, and I've got what I came for. That's it, right? So there are ways for people to test, because let's be honest, we want to test several things. One, we want to test, is it something that people are actually going to buy and join, right? And the other thing is, am I going to like it? Because there are people that are like, you know what, this is too heavy. That's not what I want to do. I'm not interested, right? So I mentioned this earlier. It's like, because it's a thing, you know, like people are not interested to have that idea of having a commitment, right? But the recurring and financial predictability comes with that commitment. Now, the thing is, it doesn't have to be you. There are memberships where you don't even come up with the content. You're a curator. Like, say I am a membership expert, right? We use AI as an accelerator, and I could have a membership where every week I bring in a guest that has an AI tool, right? It provides the expertise, right? It provides something at a deeper level that I don't even know, right? So that I could not. So it's not competition, it's actually helping my community, right? But I don't have to come up, you know, with content. We could even record a masterclass and then put it in the membership, and that would work, right? So it's about like reversing the problem and say, if I want to help these people, what do they need? And is that something that I am willing to commit to?
Which means that you could, in theory, start small then. couldn't you? You could literally begin with maybe a very short course, or as you said right at the start, just something that you know about and you're passionate about, and put it out there. Maybe see who's interested. Maybe then test the scale of it and the kinds of resources that would be consumed. Because I guess, well, I kind of know that some people are very much, aligned with, say, video content. Other people like to listen, so kind of an audio-based course, or some people still like the kind of the actual paper course where they can actually like look through a book. So it's kind of really, really flexible. But I guess you have to listen to the audience that you're targeting right from the outset, because otherwise you could end up spending a whole host of time, maybe 6 months even, creating the program, and then nobody comes or nobody listens. And what a shame that would be.
Exactly. And actually, there is a way to do it where you don't have to do any of that, because I think that's one of the reasons, like I was saying, that people don't even start, because they're like, I don't know if I'm going to like it. Once I have people are like, I've committed, so I have to keep doing it. And I don't want to put myself in that situation. So the way to do this is, when I work with people, this is, how we identify this is we're going to do a pilot program. And what this pilot program is going to do is going to allow you to validate the idea, and it's giving you a way out. If it doesn't work, you're not able to help the people, or you find out that's not what you want to do. And people are very clear that they're getting on a pilot program, and that at the end of the pilot, there will be a review, right? Now, what we do in this pilot, what's kind of unique in the way that I tell people that are wondering, is you want to sell it before you build it. So you sell them on the idea. And what I tell people is that if you're interested in a membership and you have an idea, start building what we call an interest list. So you get people to raise their hand and say, I'm interested. Don't have to tell them what's going to be inside, how much is going to be. We're not there. You gauge interest. Because if you can't do that, then how do you expect people to pay later? Right? So that's the people that are like, oh, I'm very good at this. I could teach the piano. I'm going to record all these videos and then I'll figure it out to sell it. Don't do that, because that's like a recipe for failure, right? So you have an idea, test it out there, start talking to people. If you can't build that audience, those people that are raising their hand, then get help on the messaging. Maybe the messaging is wrong, or maybe there is no need. There is not a need, right? Or you're in front of the wrong people. I mean, there are so many different ways, right? But that's kind of the idea. So when you start to have this list, I mean, we have people that convert 50% of these people into paying members, because then what we do, that's the magic. Once you've got an interest list and you get into co-creation with them, that means you start to involve them in the solution. So what happened is that by the time you're ready to launch this, you haven't created anything. You don't even have a portal. It's just an idea, but you're formulating the structure of your program and saying, this is what we're going to start with. So I love what you said, make it simple. And then together, we're going to figure out how to make it work for you and how to make it work for me. And very often, that's when you can add more resources, or you add an extra call or something like that, right? But you don't do this from the get-go, because it's really hard to remove things when you've given it to people. Say, let's start with that and see how that goes. And when you get working with them, not only you make sure that this is something they want, but they feel seen, heard. They're not just a number like many memberships or online courses that you buy, where they don't even know if you got results. They don't even ask, right? So the only reason you get access to them is if you ask for a refund or something, right? So in that case, they are so involved that they really feel like that's what we call co-creation in persuasion, right? It's that they feel it's a bit of their own already, because they helped created it. And those are your best people. So then you run your pilot, you decide it's 3 months, it's 6 months, whatever. But they know that at the end of this period, there's going to be for you an analysis of have people have been getting the thing that they wanted, right? Is it taking me too much time? So am I willing to hire someone to help? or is it exactly what I want to do? Let's keep going. Right. So that's the general idea. So that makes it, like, I think, a good option for people to test and have a way out.
And also, I guess, from the way you're describing it, it allows them to almost sort of settle into that feeling that it doesn't have to be me coming up with all the ideas. I mean, the beauty of co-creation is that there's this unlimited pot of ideas, isn't there? Because there's always going to be somebody who says, oh, I've just spotted something you haven't. Could we do something on this? And so you're kind of, as you say, building it collaboratively. Does the IP stay with the owner, though? Because if everybody else is coming up with all the ideas, do they still sort of say, okay, but this is my platform, I will decide how this plays out? Or does the IP become part of the collective? Because that could get a little bit awkward, couldn't it?
No, the IP really stays with the owner. The conversation is like, could we have this, could we have that? But it's actually the owner that goes in, and either gather the guests or, create the content and things like that. So, I mean, one of the things that you can do, for example, is when you're bringing in guests, on top of what you're doing, is you can have people make suggestions, even like when your membership is running. Like, if you'd like to suggest, like, if you'd like to have somebody talk on this topic, and it would be amazing if you can interview that person, right? So you can have people, come in with suggestions and things like that. So I think that's one of the dangers, like when we are an authority in what we do, and like we have like an expertise, if you will, to think that we know better what people want. I mean, that's very old thing, we know what they need, but like we have to meet them at their level of awareness and what they want. So that's why we have to listen. And then I can say, I want this. And then you say, okay, I'm going to give you this. And then it's for you as the expert. It's the way you deliver it that you make sure they get what they actually need.
So when I'm curious about the kind of the delivery of this then, because it sounds great. I mean, building the community, everybody's involved. Well, there's an invitation to get involved, because obviously some people will just want to consume, and they might give you a little bit of feedback, but they'll never be the ones coming forward with ideas, and that's fine, I guess, isn't it? As the community builds, does it find its own natural place to exist? Because there are so many ways you could do this. You could create your own platform. You could use, I don't know, Facebook group or WhatsApp or what. There's a whole range of different places. Do you see some platforms or some ways of delivering this collaboration and building the community? Does it work better in some places than others?
Mm-hmm. So when you get started, one smart way, I think, to do it is to look at where people are already at. So if your people are on Facebook, you can start with a Facebook group. I'm not a fan. I am 100% WordPress, control your stuff, your asset, don't put your business on rented land. That being said, what you want at the beginning is engagement. So if you have a mom that's like very busy and she's already on Facebook every day, and you ask her to log into another platform and she doesn't necessarily see the value that it's better for her to go there than here, you're going to have some resistance, right? So what is better is to stay where they are. So you'll see that like the business memberships, like the higher, mastermind programs that we are in, we have Slack channels now, right? So we use Slack because it's kind of like more of a business tool. We already use it internally. And then we have a Slack channel for the paid program that we are part of, right? So I think it's going to really depend on your audience, what they are already using, what they're familiar with, but also what is the purpose of the community. So, for example, if you're teaching someone business and you want the community to be the place where they can give accountability on the work that they've done, I've contacted X people, I have managed to get 10 interviews on podcast and things like that. Is it making sense that the community is where the content is? That means they are consuming, right? They are learning, doing, and then accountability. Or are you making them go to Facebook to actually build relationships and say, and talk about like business, but the other kind, not like the direct implementation of the program, right? So is it a social community, right, where you can still share, your wins, but things that are light? Or is it something that's linked to, okay, module 2, this exercise, this is what I found, but I'm stuck here, right? Because if it's this kind of question, it's not going to work so well on Facebook, because Facebook is a feed, so it's going to, right? And we know how the search works, right? So it's all these things to look at. And what I say at the beginning is like, if you're not sure, do something that is easy. They are on Facebook, create Facebook. They're always on their phone, do a WhatsApp group. But then monitor and see how people are using it. And if you see that people are starting to say, oh, somebody asked this question, I can't find it anymore. Can somebody share, then you can say, okay, if we were to move the community somewhere else so that it's more structured, you can find things, right? Would you be interested? And if they say, oh, yes, then you got something and you can start to look for a solution, because now there's a pain, right? And you've sold them on the idea that there is a possibility that outside of this, there is something that will work better for them.
So the way you're describing that is the word that keeps coming back to me in my mind is flexibility. I think this is all about being super flexible, both in your own expectation, but also the flexibility of how this is going to evolve, because week 1 could look very different to week 6, could look very different to week 20 in your kind of journey with this. So that flexibility obviously is going to be really, really key. Does it mean as well, though, that we have to almost follow the, if there are rules, but almost follow the rules of that journey? Because I know a lot of these kinds of courses or development programs, they'll kind of get you in through the kind of the live broadcast or the webinar, as you say, the interview with the guest, and then you book up for the course, and then you're almost left to your own devices for maybe a month or 2 months. And then they might do another session, but they're kind of just leaving you to it. Is there a place that works better? And I'm guessing I'm sort of leading on this one here, Nathalie, but is there a place where just little constant drip feeds of that kind of live interaction? Is that the accountability that people are looking for? Because it's hard to do this all by yourself, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we can start talking about e-learning if you want, but the key is that, I mean, you can have a great marketing, great sales, so you make sales on the webinar and people buy, but ultimately what you want, the true success, is if people actually get the result. I mean, to me, that's how, and when you have a membership, a recurring membership, you can see it clearly, because if they don't get the result, they will leave, right? So you have this program where you buy, and then, like you said, and if you're a bit on the introvert side, and maybe your time zone is not exactly the time zone of then you don't have the calls unless they are at 11 p.m. or 2 a.m. So you might go to 1 or 2, but then you completely feel left out, right? And these courses, honestly, they work because they sell to so many people that there's going to be always a group of people that are all in. They come to all the calls, and then they'll give the testimonial and things like that. And people are like, oh, this course works. But it's an iceberg. It's an iceberg. For these people, there is so many people that bought, that never logged in, never been to a single call, right? Or are stuck and they don't even know where to start to ask the question. I mean, people that don't ask questions it's not because they don't have a question. We should all have a question. How can I do this better is a question, right? Here is what I'm thinking. Any ideas? That's a question, right? So if you don't have a question, that means that probably you don't know where to ask, or you don't feel that you can actually ask, right? That there is a place, to feel supported. And that's really, really sad. And that's where that system of membership. So when you have a membership, you join a membership, whether you join as a cohort, it's open close, so there is maybe a webinar and then it opens and you can join the membership. There is an onboarding, and the onboarding is to make sure that, in my book, right, that when a new member comes in, that you can gather the information on where they're at so that you can better support them on the portal, right? Oh, she's a beginner or intermediate or advanced, or she's at that stage, right? So, but most programs don't do that. Why? Because the catchable, the teachable, the thinkific, they don't allow you to do that. So they ask you to feed the mold. So you feed the mold, and that becomes a content repository, if you will. But that is not what gets people results, because now people are faced with videos and PDFs, and most people will not have the discipline, let's be honest, or the motivation, or the first thing where they get stuck, they'll say, well, I'll try again later, or maybe I'll post a question in the Facebook group and it's being ignored because there are so many people talking about other things, right? And then you're like, oh my gosh, and you give up, you shelve it. Then they tell you, well, you have access for life, so you can come back to it. And we know how that goes. So that's kind of like the thing that really gets me, is so many people creating programs like that.
Yeah, and this is the thing, isn't it? Because the way you're describing this, Nathalie, is that this is the professional way to do it. And you've used the word business quite a few times here. This is not about somebody looking to get rich quick, literally fake a course, do a couple of kind of canned webinars, maybe using AI so they don't even have to appear themselves. And there's no substance to it. And actually what they're looking for is just a quick few dollars. What we're talking about here is where this is done properly and professionally. So how do we kind of differentiate? How do we cut through all of that? Because if you go on to say YouTube, every other YouTube ad, the pre-roll or within the actual ad itself is saying, oh, look, come and join this program, do this, or maybe it's just my feed. But, I see so many of these. How do we cut through and kind of encourage people or give people the confidence that, no, this one that we're producing is actually a professional, well-managed, it's community, it's a proper program here. It's not just we want your money. How do we cut through?
So I think that there are several things you need to look at. One is, what is the best environment for you to thrive? So for me, there needs to be a community. Not everybody, is like that. But there needs to be calls, and it needs to be smaller groups. If you buy a course, say you spend 2,000 and you buy a course and there are like thousands of people that bought, and then you get on the call and there are like 300 people, I will never raise my hand to be put in front. I would not. And you can see it's always the same people that raise their hand. So that type of program is not for me, even if the content is great, right? But it's about the experience, right? So, but if I am in a group, like where I am right now, and actually it's a 6 months, one of the group, the program I'm in, it's a 6 months, you renew every 6 months. And I just renewed because I feel seen. I know that when I am in the call, I am comfortable. It's actually, we can all see each other's face, unlike these big programs. And I know I can raise my hand. And I know that even though they have a lot of members, because I am consistent, he knows my business. So I'm not like just a number, right? So I think you have to learn to figure out how you're going to best perform. How do you need to be surrounded? Is this type of program, if the content is good, are you going to be able to maybe say, get in contact with several of the members and say, can we do an accountability, do something like that on your own? But if you're like, yeah, I bought a course before and they never asked me, if I had questions and stuff like that, and I got stuck and I wasn't sure, and I posted once or twice, but I never get an answer, because other people post, and depending on when you post and things like that. So then you're like, that's not a model that works for me. So then you look for something else, right? So that's number one. It's like, is that a format? And two, you have to talk to people that have gone through the program. So you have people that are so excited because they feel seen, they come on the call, but are you getting the result? Are you getting results? Because there are people that stay in programs because, like, but the result, like if it's a business, honestly, like, is the bank account growing? No, but like, I'm getting closer, I'm getting closer. No, like, because they don't want to be alone. Some people join these type of things because they are like busy in the doing, therefore it's working. No, you have a goal. Did you actually get to the goal, right? So, I mean, for me, that it's really talking to people. When I joined this program, I knew the people from like 3 years ago at least, right? Not like a stranger that came in and that like's really great at selling me a funnel or something, and then I'm in. I would not join something like that.
So we need to kind of really, I guess, educate and inform, don't we, our target audience? Again, if somebody's listening or watching this and thinks, do you know, I want to do this. I've got this big idea. I want to build a community, as much possibly for social reasons and for connection as the financial, because I guess we all have different motivators here, and if somebody is looking purely financial, they want to scale their idea, then that's one model that you've just described there, which maybe isn't for you, probably isn't for me either. But for somebody else, that would absolutely be the sweet spot. That is what they're trying to do. But I think what you're describing here, Nathalie, is more of could I call it a sort of a mastermind kind of group, something that's a little bit more of a kind of a real working group where you're actually collaboratively kind of in it together, where there is that shared accountability. And, I meet you this week and I see you then next week. And then I question you the following week because actually you didn't do what you said 2 weeks ago you were going to do. And is it that kind of interaction at that real personal level that's coming through here?
Yeah. So for me, it's that kind of interaction that I look for. And then, so if we're looking in terms of like of membership size, not size, but like let's say price point, because I want to give you an idea. So you can find things like this at like 200 a month. Like this one is 1,000, right? So you see, you have different level of access to people and knowledge and feedback. Like, how much feedback do you need? I can ask feedback every day at that price point, right? So so you have to look at that, not only when you create your program, but when you're looking for a solution, what kind of support are you looking for, right? And I know sometimes we don't know what we're going to need, but we kind of know ourselves and how much accountability we need, right? Because we are all our worst accountability buddies, right? We're okay to disappoint ourselves. No, but I really couldn't do it because, there was this, there was that. We tell ourselves stories, right? But when you have to say to people, this is what I'm doing this week, and you're going to be asked next week, then it's a different story, right? So what is the format for you that will work? I think that's something you have to honestly ask yourself, that question.
So if I'm hosting something like this, so I've set up my program, I've got some, and we'll still call it a pilot because we haven't gone big here. So it's kind of early days. I have a topic that I'm really excited about and really interested in. I have my first couple of groups and they're sharing and people seem interested in this. Does it get to a point, though, as a host of this, if you don't have many decades of experience on the topic, where even if you're going to collaborate and co-create content and ideas, people are looking to you to lead it because you are the leader, you are the owner of this program? Is there a certain pressure that comes after a certain time? Because I could imagine there would be, well, I know that there are topics maybe that if I was to do a program on, I'd be fine for the first few weeks. And then it would get to a point where I'd think, I'm starting to struggle here because I'm not really sure what else to do. Give me marketing. I could talk forever, and all the various facets of marketing, but anything else I might struggle. So I'm sure people listening to this would be thinking, I buy into this. I would love this kind of recurring kind of personal interest, but also with an income, but I don't have enough stuff to share. And I'm worried and I'm conscious that my community might turn around and not be so collaborative. They might not have ideas. They might be looking to me to give all the solutions. What do you do then?
I love this question because I have the answer for you. So, remember when we said, how do you pick your idea, right? It needs to be something that people are going to have an ongoing need. So, when you said, for example, you can talk about marketing all day, right? What you really want to have behind your membership as a structure is a method, a system that people go through. Okay. So you're not doing like one call on this, then the next week or months, another call on this topic. It's not like, because you know, you're going to have people that join at different places. So what you want, and that's part of the onboarding I was talking about, is you show them the journey. So you join this membership, this program, because you want to grow your YouTube channel. I don't know, right? Or you want to monetize a podcast, right? Something like that. So you know how to teach that to them, right? So you have a method, a system, and there are some steps, right? So through the membership, people have access to this so they can track their progress. So that's why during the onboarding, if they say, I have a podcast, but I'm not monetizing it, then they are in a specific place. If they say, I don't even have a podcast yet, then they are more a beginner. So maybe that phase, you're going to help them figure out the topic of their webinar, how to pick the platform, right? But you can imagine that someone that already has a podcast doesn't care that you tell them where they should host, right? So that's where the customized experience comes in. So you have this journey, right? So you have the podcast, then you figure out how you're going to monetize it. You've got a whole bunch of things around getting guests. Then there is the promotion, right? And then there is like, so in this, you always have like, how do you create it? You stabilize it. Maybe you have the team, and then how you grow it. And how you grow it becomes a recurring, right? Because there is always things that you can do, you can improve, right? So then you give them tools to test. So let's test with this month. Let's do an experiment, and let's try to get interviewed on a Tom 10 podcast, you know, like pick a really, really big one. And that's the challenge for the month, right? The next month is going to be about, you know, something else, maybe tapping into a new social media channel, right? Or maybe they want to go on TV or something, you know, like, so you can have like, there is always something that is going on in business. But now that they have the foundation, right, then you can continue to support them in the growth, in growing, right? Because we're always learning in marketing. So you can come in on the calls, and there can be somebody that is completely new, and maybe somebody that already has a podcast. But I am one of these people that think that they can both learn from each other, right? So the questions, we learn so much from the questions from others, right? And you can start to have calls that are more specific to, you know, as you grow and you have more people and maybe you have a team, you can say on Tuesday we meet for the beginners, because then they are all together and you can go deeper into a tool. And then we meet for the people that are looking to run ads inside their podcast, for example. I don't know, right? And that's more specific, right? So like there are so many ways where this evolves, but it's not about creating more content. You know, you said like, I'm afraid of running out of stuff. You're never going to run out of your expertise, right? So if people keep doing, then you can be there, you know, as like the sounding board and say, well, I haven't tried that, because they'll come back to the call and say, okay, so I tried it. These are the results that I got, right? So it's like coaching, you know, almost, you know, or masterminding, like you were saying, right? So you never run out of ideas. You know, it's about not about giving them more things. It's about giving them the tools, right? So talking about AI, we haven't talked about AI, but one of the way when you integrate AI into these portals is that you give them extra tools. So it's an extra level of support, right? And that's a great retention strategies, because if it works and they are using it, then why would they leave if they are growing being in your community, right? Is that making sense?
Totally and utterly. And I'm sure for everybody listening, it's like now the ideas start flowing, because that whole thing about task related, rather than we're going to just serve you with more content, we're going to serve you, it's a real involvement. I mean, this is community, isn't it? I think we've kind of come full circle here, because you can only really feel part of the community if you're doing things. Listening and absorbing stuff is one thing, but actually then taking action and then being accountable for that action within the community, the membership, the mastermind, the group, whatever you call it, that's the key, isn't it? I think you're absolutely right with that. Yeah, that kind of behavior thing. It's not just about information, it's about behavior. And so I think maybe as a host, as the owner of the program or the course or the learning, it's your responsibility to get people taking action, not just absorbing the content, isn't it? That's exciting, because then that does apply to absolutely everybody, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's people are not joining for listening to your videos. You know, I hear people say you want to create bingeable memberships where people binge your content. I mean, unless you're Netflix and you're entertainment, then yes. But otherwise, you don't want them to binge. Actually, you want them to watch and do, right? So learning, doing, because that's how they're going to see progress and stay. So then it's about what tools do you give them? Because people say, should I add more calls, right? But adding more calls means more of your time. So you sacrifice your lifestyle, you created something, and then you feel like you have to do more calls, or more money because you might hire people to do those calls, right? So that's where AI comes in as well. It's like, I see AI as an accelerator of result. It's not replacing us, but it's another level of support and a way to help people that are stuck, and in the way we use AI and talk about, I know AI, people talk about AI to create your course, write your copy, write your book. It's really, to me, it's not about that. It's really about a tool that saves us time. And the way we use it in people's, I mean, I'm talking like 8-9 figure, memberships, is they have identified that in one of these steps, like if we take the example of the podcast, right, monetizing a podcast, there is a place where it gets tricky and people are a bit stuck, like they are not really implementing as fast as you would like. And maybe this is where they need to write a pitch to the big podcaster. So you can give them a template, right? You give them a PDF, a fillable, that's the traditional. Or you can have an AI assistant that knows about their business, knows about their core values, right? Knows about the way they write, knows about their stories, right? And why they do what they do, right? And then you combine it with this strong prompt that is going to help them craft the start of a message that feels like them, where they actually, touches of your business. Like, yes, it feels like me. It's like something that I would write if I was a good writer, kind of. And then you start from that. And what it does is that it gives them something to get started. It sounds a lot like them, and it gives them the confidence that then they can go out. So of course you don't take that and send it to the people. Now you make it, but you've got a structure. And you see, okay, I see how the storytelling, because people say, you have to add storytelling. Like people are like, how do I add storytelling? Sometimes you see a sentence, it's a story, and then it gets into business. There is no flow, right? So you see, so when you identify your resistance like this, you're like, okay, what can I provide to give them that little nudge so that they don't stay stuck and they can keep moving? That's how I see AI. That's how we implement AI inside programs. And it's been so successful. I mean, the result that we got, like from where it would take, such amount of time to do something that, that now I think it was like from like 4 weeks to 20 minutes or something like that, with something which is huge. This is for someone who's teaching LinkedIn. And it's called the Rainmaker. it's on LinkedIn. It's a big program on LinkedIn, and it's huge. It's making a huge difference for people, because if they get results faster, this is one more reason for people to basically stay. So stay, talk about it to others. You get the testimonials, you get the case studies. You can use that for your authority, for your marketing, and get even more clients. So we don't want to neglect how important it is to make sure that our clients get results. I mean, not everybody is going to do it. They still have to do their part, right? But are we doing everything that we can to help them?
This is fascinating. I mean, there's so much to it, but and yet it is still so simple, isn't it? The concepts are so simple, but the beauty of this is in the detail. And I think that's what I'm really hearing from you, is that if you big picture, but it's balance. Yeah, absolutely.
It's balance. And you have to find the balance between that really deep desire of wanting to have people result and the fact that you're running a business. And I'm going to be completely honest right now. What I have in my mastermind is, they say, we see you care. You're also running a business. Okay. So remember that people, because I used to talk a lot about people want successful clients. And they're like, that's very cute. But businesses want to make money first. So I have to, even I have to remind myself. So it's really a balance between wanting to have the impact, like that people get the result, and what we have to do. And a membership is a leverage business, right? We want things that allow us to have the lifestyle that we want, right? So we have to build it in such a way from day one that it's scalable, that you can get thousands of members and you still have your weekends and your evenings and work on your terms, right? And you can, if you don't start drowning yourself into, I need to create more videos. Oh, let me do another call. Let me create another resource. Let's hop on a call one-on-one because that person is stuck and you're afraid that they might leave or something. If you start to do that, then it's not leveraged anymore, right? So it's that balance that you have to find.
Wonderful. People, if you're listening to Nathalie talking here, and I'm sure you have so many ideas, there's two things. One, use the comments box below to ask any questions. Both Nathalie and I will be looking at this and monitoring this, as we should, because this is a kind of a mini membership podcast here today. But also, Nathalie, I want people to be able to connect directly with you and the membership lab. Where should they go? We'll put the description below, but where should they go?
So they can go to themembershiplab.com. That's the website. I also have a page that is themembershiplab.com/gift. And that's where you'll see some free resources if you're interested to dig further into one of these topics. And you can find me on YouTube, The Membership Lab, and I am most present on LinkedIn, my name. If you can spell it.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Nathalie, thank you so much for all these tips. Honestly, this is one of those podcasts I know that I'm going to be rewinding, listen again, rewind, listen again, because there's just so many little moments in there that I just want to reflect on and absorb. So yeah, I'm very, very grateful to you for all the value that you brought here today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Neil. It's always a pleasure to share all this. Thank you.